Yo, welcome to SomeBuddies podcast. We're back, baby. We're back. We're in the building. My fucking awkward intro, because I never know, because we don't practice this shit. We just kind of fly off the cuff. First and foremost, I'm still speeding up my intros because Nico talks shit to me. Like, comment, subscribe, share, all that shit. And thank you to everybody that's been tuning in. SomeBuddies podcast. This is a recovery-based podcast. This is a lifestyle podcast, success, all that shit. Pretty much if you've suppressed some shit internally and you've classified yourself as uniquely fucked up and you're trying to make some positive change in your life and to break out of whatever cycle that is, this is the podcast for you. We got a special guest in the building today, all the way from... Actually, you're not currently living in New York right now, but...
Nah, I'm in Massachusetts right now, but I'm from New York City, baby.
New York in the building. My man Charlie, the hustler, is in the building. Yeah. Jay's been super hype about this guest. The second he's come back home, he's like, we got to get my boy Charlie on. And he's told me a lot about you. And I'm actually pretty pumped to have you here, too. It's dope that you came out showing love and support. And... it's cool. Like I got to, we talked a little bit brief before we jumped on the podcast, but I like the mindset like that you carry. You know, it's like what I talked about in the earlier part when we came in here, like that suppression, right? The suppression of all this shit, which we box ourselves or classify ourselves as like uniquely fucked up, and then we have these limited belief systems, and like we allow like our past or our circumstances to define us, and then we set these barriers to entry to living like these lives that we want to live. And there's like I see it all the time, man, especially working in this industry. Like people just allow circumstances to then dictate to them what the rest of their life is going to look like, you know? And so with this podcast, we like to bring in like examples of the counter argument to that's bullshit. That mindset is bullshit, right? That is like an internal prison that we're trapped in. And like guys like us that have broke out of that and experienced life, right? Living life, and we have an obligation, right? And there's a lot of information, especially within that, because sometimes we can break out of that and then forget what got us to break out of that, and then we can lock ourselves back up in that prison. I know Jay can talk a lot about that. I know you can talk a lot about that, but there's a fuck ton of information that we need to share, right? And that's the value of podcasts like this. And you can't read this shit in books. And you can't just find, this is experiences from people that have lived it and survived it and been a product of like the fucked up shit that comes with like the disease of addiction and living in that mindset. So we got you out here. Obviously, if anybody watches this podcast, you know that I don't shut the fuck up. But Justin ain't here tonight, so that's definitely gonna give you some more time to talk. Hopefully Jay ain't quiet this week, but I like to dive in, man, get a little bit about your story. Talk a little bit about yourself and like share some shit, man, and then we can dive into some other stuff.
Yeah, you know, it's confusing because not everything has to, not every person that lives like us has to come from like my type of background. But I did grow up in an alcoholic household, right? And with that came a lot of fear, right? So I was terrified of my father, right? So my dad would drink. My mother would be mad he drank. My father would get mad at my mother. And then, things would pop off. They'd smack my mom, something like that. So it sets off a whole chain of events, right? For sure. So you grow up in fear. In my neighborhood, like I always said, like I was always fearful. I wasn't like I wasn't born like a tough kid. I was always very sensitive. I was smart. But when you grow up in an environment like that, I acted out, right? So I got attention. I would seek negative attention. Some things that even bug me out about my own life is that I was drawn to things. No one taught me how to steal, right? And this is like the ism.
Yeah.
No one ever taught me how to steal, but I wanted something, and I went to the corner of my block, and it was like a transformer. And I must have been like around 5, 6, 7, and I went into the store and I stuck it down my pants and I took it. My father didn't teach me that. My mother didn't teach me that. So, you could kind of see where I'm going with this. That just escalated into like many other, different aspects of my life.
Which you just triggered something that I wanted to jump in real quick. And I've only told a few people this my whole life, because you just said no one taught you how to steal. The first time I ever stole something, I was 8 years old. And it was the corner store near the apartment building. I was living out with my mom. And it was whiteout. And I took that whiteout and went behind the apartment building that we lived in and did my initials. So that was like literally my first taste of graffiti, right? Which is kind of fucked up when I look at it. And I didn't think of that for a long time. I think I was in my mid-20s and really was like, wow, no one showed me how to steal. First of all, no one showed me how to do graffiti at that early age.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
And I'm bringing that up because that's where we have...
Chris has the same story, except he ate the whiteout. Yeah, he ate it.
Yo, boosting is my story.
So do you believe, Charlie, that so you're born with this? And then part of the circumstances of like growing up helped? Because I believe I was born with this, and I believe there was points in my life that activated it. Right? You talked about the fear component. I call that an activation of what was already inside of us. Because there's circumstances that I went through that, and my brothers went through, or my sister, and their disease, nothing was activated when they went through.
Yeah, my sister either. The same thing, yeah.
But some shit inside of me was activated. Yeah. There was a different dialogue that I had with myself than my siblings had with themselves. You know what I mean?
Same.
That negative self-talk, that fucking, like you talking about, no one ever taught you how to steal. Like no one taught me most of the fucked up shit that I did. It was just like, I was inherently drawn to that type of, it was in me. So do you believe?
It was in me. Yeah, it was in me from the start. So the kids in my neighborhood, they would listen to the Red Hot Chili Peppers, Metallica, everything like that. I was listening to Public Enemy. No one taught me about graffiti at all. I seen graffiti and fell in love with it.
Yeah.
And I didn't have mentorship. No one was like, oh, you do this. I took other kids' names that I seen on the wall and I copied it and I would do it. Then people in my neighborhood were like, you can't do that. It's somebody else. And, I eventually, but it was a rough road for me. So I stayed stagnant in that process for a long time. But I advanced in others, which were all bad.
Yeah.
So I really indulged in street life heavy.
For sure. So when do you think the disease was the most prevalent, where you understood, because, I mean, there was moments where I had no idea. You know what I mean?
Okay, so listen to this, man. I have a different story than everybody else. Like most people, I would say, it really never worked for me, right? So I might have felt some sort of relief, but I drank the first time. I passed out in the park. People went and got my family. They scraped me off the floor. They stripped me, threw me in a shower. And I said, I got to get this right. And I drank the next day. I did the same thing again, and immediately I got consequences. I went to jail. I went to Spofford, the fucking South Bronx. At 14 years old, I got taken away from my family. I had consequences immediately. And you know what, Chris? It didn't I thought it was normal.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm from here. This is what it is. And this is but even I don't have people in my family go to jail or prison. In my head, it was normal. I got stabbed 17 times, right? I get out of the hospital. I'm like, my girl was wiping my ass at the time, right? I couldn't even wipe my own ass. I get out, I'm bedridden. I get to the bed. They put me down. I say, go to the store, get me 2 40s of Old English, and give me Adderall. She dropped to her knees, hysterical, crying. How could you do this again? I go, what? That's what happens. You live in New York. People get stabbed. It happens. That was my attitude.
Yeah.
It didn't matter what happened to me. I thought it was part of God's plan. This is my destiny. I'm going to die from getting killed. I'm going to die from drugs and alcohol. I accepted that as my fate. I am very, very lucky because I had an epiphany that just hit me when I was 34 years old. I literally woke up and I was like, I don't have to live like this. I lived in East New York. It was not gentrified. I was the only white boy that lived there for miles. I used to get out of the train station and I used to say, I hope I make it home. This is on a daily basis.
Yeah.
They kill cops there on the 4th of July. And it's like where, Uncle Murder's from. It's live.
Yeah.
It's the knockout game. You would just, they would run up on you. You would get fucked up.
Yeah.
And I was in fear. And I had this shitty job. I worked on an ice truck. And I used to finish delivering the ice to the boxes. And if I got back early, he used to send me out again with more pallets. And I had to hustle them off. So I didn't really catch a break. So, I'm living in this apartment I lived in a dangerous environment. My apartment was real shitty. And one day I just woke up just like that. And I was like, I don't have to live like this. Wow. I'm in control of my life. I could change my life. And I walked to the computer and I typed in, I liked hot places, right? I loved Arizona. I lived there. I loved Florida. So, I didn't know I loved Florida yet. So I loved Arizona. So I knew I loved the sun. So I was like, cheap halfway houses, Florida. And a bunch of places popped up. And I called. I didn't know about insurance. I didn't know about any of that. So I would call and they'd be like, do you have insurance? I was on welfare. So I'd be like, yeah, I have Medicaid. They would hang the phone up on me. Yeah, they would bang the phone on me. Mm-hmm. So, some place, I can't believe it. They would tell me oh, yeah, we go jet skiing. We have horse ranching. I'm like, fuck, this sounds dope. Exactly what I'm looking for.
Yeah.
And then
I can't wait to get there.
They would ask me about insurance and I would say, oh, I have Medicaid. And they would literally click the phone on me.
Yeah.
So I called one place. It was called Halfway There. It was in Florida. It's closed down now. I called and they were like, do you have a $900 move-in fee? And I was like, I could get it. And they were like, come on down, man. And I went. I knew my pattern, right? Listen, everybody that knows me knows I'm very humble, but I'm a cool dude. People are attracted to me, especially street dudes, street white dudes, right? So I get on this plane and I already know now, I start to wake up. I say, I'm going to get to this halfway house and everyone's going to flock to me and they're going to talk about my sneakers and the new Meek Mill song and all this shit, right? And that's exactly what happened. I got to the halfway house. They were like, yo, bro, where you from? Your sneakers are dope. Da-da-da. I was real tired, man, right? So I'm like, yo, I'm going to bed. And this was the best, healthiest decision I ever made in my life. And it's very small, but you'll see why. I wake up in the morning. The dudes come to me, right? They're like, yo, Charlie, could you go to staff and get a movie? Get Step Brothers. So in my head, I'm like, yo, I'm 34 years old. I have $100 in my pocket. These kids are 21. I said, I'm like homeless, right? In a new state. Am I going to watch Step Brothers right now at 9 a.m. on a Tuesday morning? Or am I going to go and try to find a job? Mm-hmm. So I was like, nah, I'm going to take a shot. That was the best decision I ever made. I said, no, I'm going to go try to find a job. So I walked my ass to the avenue that was far. And I went into a Subway and there was a fishbowl with cards in it, right? Business cards. And I pulled them out and I called everyone. And I happened to call a landscaping company and they hired me. I started the next day. Everybody was like, oh, yeah, we're just going to wait till next week. We're just going to wait till next week. And I started working. And
quick question. What was your level of ignorance at this point, right? So you're 34 years old. You made the call, right? So there's the gift of desperation, right? You had that brief moment of clarity. We sometimes don't even know that it's happening in the midst of that, right? How we go from that sick, fucked up mind to all of a sudden something needs to change now.
That psychic change.
That psychic change, yeah. But But a lot of us have this level of ignorance to understand the depths to which we suffer, right? And because for me, I'm a big advocate of being a student to this fucking shit, right? Because this shit,
it's a process.
It's a process, but the level of effect that it has on us internally is something that's hard to comprehend. So you have to actually like become a student to understand your suffering and how we suffer, right? Because there's so much shit that goes on internal. And so my pitfalls for a long time was my level of ignorance and my unwillingness to learn completely. And, which would always lead me in circumstances of failure, right? And the failure would consist of this. I would get clean. I would clean up the external. I'd look good on the outside. I'd feel like I was doing good, and people around me were telling me I was doing good, and I'd be validated through people saying, I'm so proud of you. I'm so proud of you. Look at you. Keep it up. Keep it up. You're doing great. Keep it up. And I would buy into that, and then I'd get high, and I'd be just as fucking confused as everybody else was. Baffled.
Yeah.
Just my mother, everybody baffled, including me.
Story of my life.
But that was the level of ignorance that I was at, right? Because I didn't fully take the time to fucking understand the depths to which I suffer.
Do you know what? I couldn't understand.
Yeah.
Right? I couldn't. I never. I don't know. Talk about like the process, like as far as steps goes, but like, step one, like I just know what that means now.
Yeah.
It took someone to break it down to me. Like my brain is always lying to me. I get up in the morning, my brain is telling me like, yo, you're short. This you're never gonna have, you're not gonna get the job you want. You're not gonna acquire the things you need. You're always gonna be struggling. What's the point? There's COVID now. Martial law is gonna come.
Yep.
Fuck it. Eat a cheeseburger.
We spoke about this.
Drink beers, live life. That's what men do.
Yeah.
Who cares?
We spoke about this the other night, and he brought up step one, and we were talking, and you touching on that decision. I've been in a halfway house before. That's what I love about this platform. When we discuss things, my brain just starts to go, and it shows me how much we actually truly have in common, because I've been in a halfway house before, and fucking just every time I'm supposed to be out looking for a job, I wasn't. And I had no desire to change my life. Mm-hmm. Okay, and we also talked the last podcast, the one before, how you can never connect the dots going forward, but you can always backwards.
Yep.
So when I made it into another halfway house a couple years later, when it came time to that point where the dudes are fucking signing out and going to the movies or going to the Boston Common or doing everything but going to a meeting, I didn't really fuck with that, because I wanted to get back to getting a job, right? And what's funny is it makes me think of when me and Chris first met, I had started working before you got into that roofers union, remember?
You were doing fences.
I'm so happy you said that, because...
But hold on, it's quick. So this is what I'm saying. So around that time, I remember I started to see a different way. Now I got the get well job, but I was actually making decent money. It was like $15 an hour under the table, but for a fucking 25-year-old kid that's newly clean.
Balling.
Yeah.
And our heads were only wrapped around new gear and all this shit, right? But you touching on the whole Step Brothers thing, see, the thing I love about when someone shares their story and that you go, it's something small. Well, that started the process to where the fuck you're at sitting here right now.
It. Yeah.
Right? Because the dialogue started to change. I'm not okay with sitting with 21-year-old kids fucking watching Step Brothers, because I want to change being fucking homeless in Florida.
And I got to see what happened to them after.
Yeah.
The kids ain't alive no more. Like,
No,
you know what I mean?
But why I asked you that question is because it's like, there's a dude 23 years old maybe watching this right now, and he doesn't need to wait till as long as we waited for the understanding of like what's going on internally, right? 100%. That's why I want to know your level of ignorance, because all that pitfalls that will happen moving forward is going to be caused by a level of ignorance. Because once you understand, you understand, right? And then you can't claim ignorance no more.
Right.
And you're not a victim, you're a fucking volunteer.
Yes.
But at least you understand that you're a product of you now, and that there is no more like blaming circumstances of the outside world.
Once you get to a certain age, man, there's no more blame. You're 30 years old or whatever it is, and you're fully aware of what's going on. It doesn't matter what. There's no more excuses, man.
Yeah.
And what you were saying, you asked me that question, but you answered it for me. That's why I try to jump in there, is because I got to this point from learning what not to do.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not the kid that got it. I didn't understand. I didn't understand. It was my brain is constantly lying to me. It's like a broken GPS. It's always telling me make a left when I have to go right.
Yeah.
And I keep falling for it. Now I'm like, whoa, I think, but it would take, all right, don't make a right or left, but go this way. And I keep cornering myself off with people, places, and things, but all other types of things. It starts like, it could come at you like small things. It always starts with small things. Yeah. It's like anything. Like you quit smoking, right? And then like, a year later, you're like, let me have a cigarette. Then the next day, you're like, I can smoke a cigarette. Yeah. Then before you know it, you smoke at 7, then you're at a pack. It happened to me with diet. 7 months of eating like no meat. Then I said, let me eat a burrito. And then like, I was like, next week I could eat one a week, and then boom, I'm on this shitty diet of McDonald's and all this shit again. So like time and time again, I've made these mistakes. Now I'm like really cautious, and that's why I have someone to talk to. That's why it's it's pivotal. What is it?
Pivotal.
That you're in my life because
we'll never be able to sort through our own clutter to get to our own clarity.
You cannot see yourself coming. They say you cannot see your own ears.
Nope.
So if I'm like on my Instagram and I'm acting like I say something off, people like, yo.
Call you out.
Yeah, they're like, yo, are you okay?
Yep.
And somebody told me yesterday, they were like, a fool only trips over what's behind him.
Yeah.
So like you gotta keep it moving.
I like that.
Man.
Well, left to my own devices, were you going to talk?
I was gonna.
All right, go ahead.
I got goosebumps when you're talking about your psychic change. Like goosebumps. Because it brought me back to like my psychic change. Because how do you go from every day being like, I'm a pizza, or your sake, right? I'm going to get stabbed. I'm going to die, of drugs and alcohol. This is what I deserve. This is my path. This is what God has chosen for me. Then waking up one day from the shitty job in the shitty apartment being like, I got to change it up. Like that shit. Like gave me goosebumps. I remember, where I was, and the way you talked about like living in fear, like it's difficult for me today to not let fear dictate my next move. And that's where it comes in with like the connection, right? Because I surround myself with guys. If I post or if I'm acting different, right? People can tell, right? Just like I can tell if you're off, I can just tell. Yeah. And he goes off, wait, what's wrong? And I have guys that I trust that I can talk to that call me out on my bullshit. Yeah.
Support.
Yeah. Everyone needs that, but it's difficult to break that barrier down.
A normal person can't support you. So your mother, your girlfriend,
they'll never understand.
They don't get it.
Never understand.
They don't get it. You need somebody. You need a mirror. Somebody. And again, another thing I always used to do was compare.
Yeah.
So I stopped like comparing, like, oh, I didn't do that, or I didn't do that, and I started to like identify.
Yeah.
Like I was there once, or like, not be so rigid, man, and not. It all comes down to the basic feelings, man. So like, hurt, anger, everybody can identify with that. So,
absolutely. But and so what comes with when you get to a level of understanding, you understand what's required. Like when you don't understand how this shit operates within you internally, you're being puppeted. I call it being controlled by the disease, because your fear, all these negative emotions that we're experiencing are our disease, right? Because it slowly wears away at you and deteriorates you internally, right? It's through the suppression of that shit and an abundance of this stuff internally we'll start to classify as truths, right? And our mind doesn't give a fuck whether something fact or fiction. It just takes the information, and then we have a response to it emotionally. And once you start responding to it emotionally, that's when shit gets fucked up, because now when we don't like how we feel, we want to make ourselves feel better. And that's when, left to my own devices, I come up with an alternate plan of action, right? It's not nothing that's going to be suggested to me by Jay. Jay will come up with a proper plan of action.
Yep.
I come up with an alternate plan of action. What's the quickest way to relief from my current circumstances right now? And for years, I didn't understand that that's what was going on with me internally, right? So I fed into that. I took the fucking bait and the trap of that every single time because I didn't know. And also because it was getting validated from fucking people and places around me, right?
It's crazy, bro, yeah.
And I'm being validated through this shit, all the while still dying inside. And And there's nothing fucking worse than dying inside while also receiving validations that you're doing amazing, because that just locks you even more into a place of suppression of your truth. Because how am I supposed to let everybody know that I'm fucking dying when all you're doing is complimenting me and telling me because my external world looks like it's intact. Oh, you got a car. Oh, you got a job. Oh, you look healthy. You got fucking complexion in your skin. Oh, your clothes are clean. Oh, you look whatever the fuck. How now? I'm gonna tell you that I have severe anxiety, major negative self-talk, fucking body dysmorphia, vanity issues. That I hate myself. I hate my teeth. I hate all this shit. I can't say that out loud because that's a counter. That's the opposite to how you're perceiving me. And when I'm in pain, the perception of me is more important than actually how I'm doing. So then we get trapped. That's the fucking trap. And when you don't understand that that's the trap that the disease sets, you fall prey to that trap. That's why so many motherfuckers relapse after having years, right? We understand why people in early recovery relapse because they never give the time. They never take the time to understand and do the work that's required. But the people that do take the time to understand and do the work that's required, put together some years and then fucking relapse, that's confusing to people. It's not confusing to me.
Well, so this time that I came, so I had 4 years, and you know what? It's funny because every time you use, it's like you would never almost clean. You forget all that.
Sure.
So I don't know if I had 4 years and 3 months or 4 years and 9 months, but this time, so after I relapsed, right? So I started to isolate, right? So I isolated. I got away from everybody. I put myself into a corner away from the world. And I used. When I went into treatment this time, do you know how hopeless I was?
What happened though? You put together that time. What happened?
So we'll go back to this. I go to Florida. I'm in the halfway house. I'm working. I start going. So staff sees that I'm serious. Yeah. I have a sponsor. I'm working steps. They really start to take a liking to me, right? Mm-hmm. When I had 60 days, I went to them and I was like, I really want to work in treatment. This is where I fit in.
Fuck.
I'd be great.
Oh, man.
Oh, this is great, though. Listen to this shit. They gave me a job as a driver. Yep. So I used to drive to the airport. I was me. The way I look, I was the face of hope. And I used to pick these people up, and I used to talk to them. I was very good at it. And I went from a driver to a tech, to a lead tech. Then they paid for my score. I became a drug counselor.
Wow.
I was flourishing.
Of course.
I went into business for myself. I did my best at helping people. So that was really good. What happened was I acquired all the things that I thought would make me happy.
Say that.
I acquired all the things that I thought would make me happy. I got all the Gucci.
Yeah.
I had the brand new black Lex, brand new Rolex. I had all this stuff, right? And I realized that the quality of a Rolex to a Seiko wasn't such a difference. I realized that the Gucci sneakers weren't more comfortable than Air Maxes, and everything started to suck. Yes. So I wanted to escape. So I started writing graffiti again, right?
Yep.
And I had sponsees, and I cut them all off. I met with them one-on-one. I says, you know what? I'm not living right. So, you have to find a new sponsor. I got to, do my thing. And I started to do my thing. And when I was doing my thing, it gives me severe anxiety. And what would take that edge off?
Yeah.
A bottle of vodka.
Yeah.
And then from there, everything just, it was fuck everything, right? Fuck people. And I went off I bought a trailer, and I moved to the Pocono Mountains. It was just all over, man. It was all over.
Yeah.
But I went back into treatment, right? I became friends with a kid, J Money, what's up? And he's from Boston. And, you know, we're both in PHP. He comes home one day. He's like, so I have like, I think about 90 days clean. He's like, yo, I got us an apartment. And I knew it was a bad idea. He was mad younger than me. I knew it. But, I was trying to hang in there. And eventually I winded up getting high. But this time, so I've been stabbed. I had all these things happen to me. That wasn't my bottom.
Yeah.
That wasn't my bottom.
Shit.
What I did this time, right, is that I got smashed blackout drunk, right? And I was at a bar. And I don't know what I was thinking because I was blacked out, right? But I don't even know what I did. I don't know what I did. All I know is that a lot of people were very upset with me and people that I know. And it broke my heart.
Yeah.
I was devastated. Devastated. I went into, so that happened, say 2 a.m. I was in detox at 7 a.m. I was done. I was crying. I'm not a crier, so I was nervous before, like if my grandmother died, I wouldn't cry. So that's how broken I was. Yeah. So I was crying and I was like very afraid. I went to a treatment center. Is it okay if I say where I went?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So I went to Blue Crest, right? And they had a house, and it was like in the woods, right, with bears that walked around it. I was like very afraid. I was like so sketched out. I was crying about what I did, and I said to myself, I'm not gonna bounce back from this. I'm not. So I had a sponsor, right? So when I got to the treatment center, the bus driver, I was like, I need a sponsor right now. He was like, whoa. I never heard nobody say that. I was like, I need one now. He made a call right there. I had a sponsor before I was back at the house. That's how,
Wow.
Because I knew. So I got a sponsor. I started working with a sponsor, and I used to call him all the time, and I used to be crying and be like, I'm scared. Like, I was scared of everything, and I was hopeless. When I say hopeless this time, I was completely hopeless. I never thought I was going to get it. I contemplated suicide. I didn't know what to do with myself. I didn't know what I was going to be in life. And slowly but surely, I started, and it happens very quickly. I remember like at day 11, day 12, I started to I'm not going to say I had hope, but I started to feel a little bit better, right? And I started to maybe smile or laugh. Like, if I heard somebody say something funny, I would laugh a little low key. Yeah. And I started to see like my spirit woke up. And then I started to engage in group, right? And I was saying what was on my mind. I didn't care what other people thought about me. I talked about a lot of trauma. I had a counselor, Stephanie, that was really good, and she used to kind of, redirect me and like kind of get to the root of things. And, I started this is the biggest thing that happened to me. And I said this before. I didn't know after 20 years of being in recovery that my brain is always lying to me. That's a hard pill to swallow. Yeah. And that's sick. And we're sick for that. And that's why they call it a disease. Mm-hmm. My brain is trying to kill me 24 hours a day. And it might not tell me take a drink or do a drug. Mm-hmm. It might tell me go to a massage parlor. Yeah. Go gambling. Yeah. Sell weed. Yeah. Like cut corners and like, so anyway, there was they really focused on step 1 with me and like that changed my life. Now listen, I have 6 months now. I'm not saying I have by any means. I'm still very off balance. I need a lot of help. I have a sponsor. I call him for every little thing. And I always say this. It's funny because I will call a drug dealer that I don't know 10 million times in a row. Yeah. Right? Mm-hmm. And I'll be like, oh, it's me, Jay's friend. I live here. You could come in, you could do. But people dedicate their whole entire life. There's a helpline that you could call, and people are dying for you to call, and you won't call them. Yeah. But you'll call somebody 30 times in a row for a bag of weed. Like, I mean, I'm at the point now where I know that my best thinking is my ideas, the shit that I come up with sound really good to me.
It's
Yeah.
funny.
But-
I remember I was fucking mind blown when I came to this realization, and it was well after. Why do I flourish in programs?
Yeah.
I flourish. I'm a fucking circuit all-star.
Same.
Massachusetts
Same.
circuit all-star. Why do I flourish in programs? I'll fucking, and not only do when I go to leave that program, if you gave me a lie detector test that you're gonna stay clean forever, I'd be like, yup, and I'd pass that shit every fucking time with the best of intention. I remember when I was mind blown when I had the realization that I can flourish in treatment and in facilities because my thinking's taken out of the equation and someone else's is inserted instead. I'm being told, wake up, Chris. Come home, Chris. Go to a meeting, Chris. Come back home, sign out, go smoke, shower, eat. Literally my day, all day. And I can put, because Massachusetts, mass system, you're in a fucking halfway house for like 8. First off, you're waiting for 4 months in a holding facility to go to an 8-month halfway house. You're doing jail bids, essentially, in treatment. It's not like 30-day PHP and then you're fucking... It's none of that bullshit. It's like hardcore. You're in the system.
Yeah, shit. I was in holding for 3 months, then a halfway house
Yeah, and
for
we-
6, and sober living for another 6.
When we rock it, we'd be clean. But then we'd graduate, and like I said, dumbfounded when I'd relapse. Dumbfounded. Just as dumbfounded as everybody else was. It's because my thinking was now reinserted back into the equation, and I never took the time to fully understand to the depths to which I suffered, right? How does this shit operate within me? I suffer from the disease of addiction, also known as the disease of extremely fucked up thinking. It's not going to say that in the clinical book, but I'm going to tell you right now, if you suffer from this, that's what the fuck you suffer from.
Yeah.
It's classified as a brain disorder. It's a narrative that you paint for yourself, from yourself. You have a disease that talks to you in your own voice, and it talks shit. And your disease will affect you, Charlie, different than it'll affect me, because it can only use you against you.
Yep.
And it can only use me against me. So the more suppressed shit that I have, the more weapons that my disease has to use against me. It's those fucked up thoughts that come through out of nowhere when I'm trying to have a good day that's like, hey, piece of shit, remember this?
Yeah.
Remember this fucked up thing?
Yeah.
Well, imagine what if everybody finds this out? What if people know who you truly are? That's why I always tell people I run the 8-mile Eminem version of recovery. I have to beat my disease to the punch. I don't want to be on a pedestal. I don't give a fuck. I got 15 years. I don't give a fuck. You need to know where I'm at and who I am, because I'll start to tell myself that I'm somebody different.
Yep.
And the second I start classifying myself as unique, that's when I'm no good.
Yep.
I'm no good. I ain't new. I'm not unique. That's what ego, right? Separation of self. I'm either better than or less than. I'm not the same. I always want to be on a level playing field because I'll buy into the hype of me. Don't get that shit twisted. I'll buy into the hype because I still suffer from this thing that loves the validation, right? But the problem with that is when I get locked into perception, how am I perceived more than how am I actually doing? That's when I'm fucked. Then I stop allowing myself to be, and I start projecting myself into to come off as something.
Every time I am doing better than I feel, right? I'm like, I'm doing really good, but I still feel like I'm not good enough. I'm not doing good enough, you know? And that's where like my head attacks me.
Go ahead.
That negative self-talk, though, that dies out.
Oh, it's you that was trying to talk? Yeah. Never mind. I'm just fucking... I thought it was Jay. I was like, go ahead. Oh, it's not Jay?
No. No,
thought it was Jay.
that negative self-talk, like, that still comes up with me. You talk about it all the time. You know, Jay does too. We all do. But it's like I don't listen to it anymore because, like you said, my disease is trying to kill me on a daily basis, right? And it comes with how I'm acting. The second we talked about comparing myself to others, the second I start comparing myself, especially if someone's speaking, I'm like, I have nothing like this person. I know something in my program is fucked up. Whether I'm not praying, I'm not calling my sponsor enough. Something is not lined up to the point that I think that I'm different than other people. Because I'm not at the end of the day.
Well, I'm glad you said that, and I'm just sitting here taking it in.
No.
It's
I'm
like
just...
to see that don't work. That don't work. For
Yeah,
me.
no,
I'll
it
keep
don't.
going. So, I'm sitting here just thinking of all these different things, and you're talking about the negative self-talk, and you're always doing better than, you're saying you are. And I've had this thing recently where I'm really, and I love when Chris touches and says it like being a student to this game, right? It is. Life is a game.
Of course.
Right? Now, the thing is, because I'll keep it on me, I don't get to choose what enters my mind.
Mm-hmm.
Right? But I'm at a point in my life where I truly understand that when I start to see that it's now turned into a couple hours of being negative, I can then call myself lazy, and I only say that because, yes, that can
Categorize.
Yes, thank you. Wow. Under being negative, right?
Yep.
And then I can say, but what are you doing to change that mindset?
Yeah.
Right? So I seek out certain things. I'm doing cardio every morning. What we were just talking about before. I typically hate cardio. Working out and cardio and sweating and all that is just as important as me going to a men's meeting. For me, that's my story, right? And I'm doing pretty well. Now, if I want to sit here and say, oh, but you could be doing better, or, you know, you're not fully, you know, settled in up north, right? That's when my head starts to go, right? I still have some loose ends to finish, right? And then it makes me think, too, I need to be around other people that are just as fucked up, right, to be able to talk about that. And then it makes me think, and because I want to touch on it because Charlie's on, and I've been very amped that he's coming on here. Our friendship, okay, and I am going to touch a little bit into the graffiti aspect and how this works as us being addicts. I'm in Florida. You guys know I was in Florida for 2 years. I went to some meetings. I didn't feel it like it was home, right? I happened to be in Miami painting, and I see this dude's shit, right? And without getting too into details, we're in some similar crews of people, right?
Just say we're gonna flash some, just right here. We're gonna put some pictures.
We're gonna put up what we did at Art Basel.
Okay.
Okay. This is why this is very important to me and Charlie's relationship. And he just said he relapsed before he went full back into graffiti. My life has always been a direct result of the type of graffiti that I was doing in life, okay? So I've grown up being like the wowing out, fucking going for the craziest spot. If there's beef, you're just showing up. I don't give a fuck if I'm outnumbered. I don't give a fuck how big, small. I haven't always been in shape. I was the scrawny little fucking drug addict, right? I'd still fight dudes. I don't care. The reason why I'm sharing that is because I see this dude's shit in Miami. We're both part of XTC, all right? That's not any fucking breaking news, right? And I feel like that's important as shit. There's writers that reach out to me all around the world. Same thing with this man, right? And the way that you live and the way that I live today shows someone that there's hope to come out of that, okay? And what's important about this is I reached out to him. This is the cool thing I do like about social media. Threw out some friends that we have. Boom. The type of friends that we both share, immediately it's like me and this dude already knew each other. Now, the beautiful thing about what I do and how I'm passionate about painting and stuff is that you shared with me that you really hadn't gotten into piecing and all this other aspect, and it was a dream, you know, and he wanted to be something more, okay? Now, this is the important part. We also had the recovery piece, but he wasn't being that honest with me.
That's a bond, though.
It's a bond, and it also, I only needed 1 weekend. I came over, I stayed at his house.
To sniff out his bullshit?
Well, no. So this is what happened.
Jay's good at that.
Tell the whole story.
So this is what happened. We link. I say I'm coming to Miami to work on a wall for Art Basel, and you know, it's sponsored by Montana, and he's just like, yo, I just want to be a part of, and I'm like, yo, you're my boy. You know John, you know this one, that one. You already know what time it is, right? So I drive over and I pick him up, and he really hadn't been a part of a wall like that, and you could just tell. And this is where this is how I know I've changed and that he changed. He's just like, yo, man, I want to get into peace, and I want to do this. I need a spot on this wall. And I was like, oh, man, it don't work that easy. You know, I didn't want to be like rude. I'm like, yo, this is for Montana. And then the more I thought about it after I said it, you know what? I was like, yo, do your fucking throw. You're doing your throw in my piece. He's like, word? I'm like, yeah, man. Right? Because I see myself. We just want to be loved up. That whole street exterior shit. I know this dude is a loving, caring, loyal motherfucker. Don't get it twisted. You cross people like that, that's going to get ugly. We don't want to live like that no more. And I seen that. And just by being like, yo, you're going to do some shit here. And right? Art Basel on I-95. This kid from New York, I'm from Boston. We're down in Miami just doing what we love. And then I stayed there one night, and he introduces me to the dude, Jay, that he says. Right off the rip, dude shakes my hand. He's looking this way and this way. I was like, yo, what's up with your roommate? He's like, oh, nah, he's a good kid, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, yo, that dude didn't even look me in the eye once, homie. Like, you know, and I'll throw this shit out there. The apartment and just the way you were living, I'm like, yo, these cats ain't clean. Right? It's not that I seen that he was high, but I was like, yo, kind of along the lines of like, yo, I want to see you do better. Remember I was talking about certain,
Yeah.
like I was staying on the futon. And it was just for the night, and we're going to paint. And I just wanted him to be a part of what was going on. Plus he's crew, you know? And I was just like, yo, I want to see you doing better. Something ain't adding up, you know? And then he's seen, you know? And then we had a great weekend. We painted.
Do you remember I couldn't even control myself that I wanted to drink non-alcoholic beer?
Oh,
Do you remember that?
Jeez.
yes. Thank you for bringing this up. We're there with a bunch of other people that we know, some are old school New York cats that live in Miami now. And they're going to the store to drink, to get beers. And I'm just painting. I'm in the zone. And this particular wall that will be cool to end up, you know, showing. I went in on it, man. And the other guy, you know, Giz and Myro, these guys are doing other big walls and shit. But that's the only wall I was painting at this Art Basel. So I went fucking in on this shit 2 weekends in a row. And they come back and they're all drinking beers and they're like, oh, Charlie. And I look over and this dude got a fucking non-alcoholic Heineken in his hand. I come over. I was like, yo, what's good with that? He's like, oh, it's non-alcoholic. I go, what? I'm like, dude, that's fucking, I go, that's stupid.
Yeah.
Just like, but he know, and we didn't even know each other that long. And he knows this now. I don't care if I offend
I was
you.
actively getting high. Do you know what it's like, right? To be actively
But
getting
hold on,
high,
before you
full-blown addiction, and he's coming to sleep on my couch?
That's the fucking
I'd be
worst.
fear,
Yeah.
scared.
Bro, I was so scared. Because of
But he
all the
opened up,
bad stuff.
he opened up about a lot of shit, and he didn't look high around me.
I wasn't.
But I said, the way you're living, homie, this shit, first of all, I was like, your roommate, he's fucked. I could call it on him. He was like this. Right? But I said, non-alcoholic beer, bro, that's the dumbest shit I ever heard. And you were like, well, I just like to feel like I'm part of the guys, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, I'm just not fucking with what he was saying. You know what I'm saying? He's still my boy. And I went back to painting. Right? And we talked about a lot of shit, right? And it's still to this day. Because when I first got clean years and years ago, same thing. Painted trains, did track sides, did rooftops, did billboards, did the fucked up painting, the shit that people end up jocking. Oh, you did that. At the end of the day, that shit's really not important. What's important is that I'm passionate about painting.
Yeah.
Right? And I just said it's a direct result. Usually you can see how I'm living. There's no coincidence that I personally think I'm painting the best shit I've ever painted in my life at fucking 40. When I started this journey at like 12 years old, well, shit, even back further. I told you in the beginning, I wrote a whiteout on the apartment building, right? That was my first addiction. See, the catch to it is, and what I love seeing with other people and trying to help them chase their passion, is that the wilding out, the bombing, the negative shit that comes from graffiti, yo, you can miss me with that shit nowadays. Do I finally sometimes fucking dive into it? Yes, and I'm working on it. But painting murals, right? Charlie's getting into painting subway maps and fucking just doing positive shit. He's doing what he loves. I didn't talk to myself like that until I got into recovery.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't realize, right? So I've been blowing my own self away. I'm going to be honest. Like, I look at my shit, and I'm not that type. I'm my worst critic. But I've been looking at my blends and my shit, and I've been like, I'm mesmerized by it. Like, if you see them in person, like, on the computer, it's one thing. When you see one up close, how clean and crispy and that color, it's
Because
mind-blowing.
he's expanding
but I
his mind.
soaked it in from DG. I didn't even think that...
Which DG's a writer from New York that
he
passed
used to
away.
show me like how to blend, and I would be drinking beer, sniffing coke. I wouldn't care. I would look and glance, and he'd take the time, and he'd sit me like almost on his lap and show me. But I wasn't. But you know what? This little brain soaked it up.
No, and it's important to hear
Came
because
out in recovery. Yeah.
I have a lot of graffiti writers in particular. That's why it was important to bring them on. One, because we're friends, and two, we have a similar background, and also it's affecting and resonating what we discuss on this panel across the fucking world. I can't stress that enough, right? That I get hit up and people, same thing. Yo, back, hey, I'm doing this now. I'm doing that. All I'm doing is owning my truth. I have huge plans with my artwork. And when I was younger, it was just to write my fucking name over and over so you knew who the fuck I was.
Same.
So that's thinking with a fucking peanut brain. I'm keeping it on me. And now I've actually lost the interest. I'm more motivated now by shit that I paint that don't say my name.
Right.
It has a message behind it.
Yeah.
Now that's fucking serious growth.
Yeah.
And what he's talking about and hearing him say, my mind's blown. Listen, we fucking talk to ourselves in our own voice. We say too short, too ugly, not big enough, you don't make enough fucking money, your girl don't like you, you're insecure, this one doesn't like you, this one. Listen, we can go on forever about the shit our head says. I can't control what enters my head. I can only control how I act on it. And I know that shit's bullshit nowadays. And I almost talk shit back. That's the gift of recovery.
For both of you guys, I got a question.
And we'll get right back to it, Chris, after we
And
take a
on this
pee-pee
break.
Oh, my God. Thank you.
We're back from the pee-pee break. Chris with the weak bladder. Always, dude. Oh, you got to get that checked out.
I do. I apologize.
You got to go. When's the last time you had a physical?
Fuck, over a year ago. I need to go.
Last time.
Nothing's open. COVID.
Before I got a physical like 2 years ago for the first time. The last time I had seen a doctor was my fucking pediatrician.
Baby doctor.
Yo, Dr. Cuneo. Shout out Dr. Cuneo. He was still seeing me like when I was like fucking 19, 20. Dude. He's like, homie, you gotta get a real doctor. But so we touched on a lot of good shit. I know kind of getting some context with Charlie, Jay, the graph world. I know Chris has a question he wants to ask, but also I just want to like dive in, right? For anybody watching this podcast that's like in the earlier process of any type of change, especially with addiction, right? Why we do this shit, why we do this podcast. I used to love when Jay used to share at meetings. He used to end every share. I hope somebody got something out of this, because I don't do this shit for nothing. Every time he shared at a meeting, that's how he used
commitments.
Commitments. Yeah. And I'm like, that shit's fucking gangster. Dead serious too. But we don't do this for nothing, right? And there's like a passion that comes behind this, because once you kind of experience what this shit has to offer and have a full understanding of like why we dive into any process of change, especially with recovery, right? And once you understand like what it is that you're doing or what you're trying to attain, and you get a little bit of experience with it, then that's where the flame lights and ignites inside, and you become passionate about this. Like anytime I speak to anybody about this, like, and everybody makes fun of me because I have like these weird things that I do. I shut my eyes, my fingers go, because there's so much shit that I want to fucking say. Yeah. That comes into my brain, right? Because of like the level of ignorance that I once had, and how much of a fucking pessimist I was, because I didn't believe in any of this shit. Like wholeheartedly didn't believe. Me either. Like I was the fucking anti anything that you had to offer, that because of my lack of understanding, right? And so I allowed for so long my disease to control me through narratives that it painted me into, that I lived to it, which were true, right? My internal created this external reality that I became prisoner to. And I see this happen to so many fucking people, right? They get trapped in here, and their life becomes a reflection of the negative, toxic place that this is. And that's, I call that the mental imprisonment, right? There's no worse jail to be locked up in than your mind, the jail of the mind, right? And I stayed trapped in that for a long fucking time. So why do we do this, right? Why do we take steps into a process of an evolution of self, right? Why do we put in the work? Why do we fucking have these acts of surrender where we turn our life over to something else without fully understanding? Because it's so much deeper than just not fucking being strung out on drugs and alcohol and all that shit, right? Yep. And you have to kind of explain this to people now, because this disease is so powerful that it is hard to fucking get clean, because you can't understand or even grasp the type of life that you can attain and have, because your mind has controlled the narratives that you live by, therefore suppressing what your belief systems are, right? So you live to a limited belief system. So it's real easy to say fuck it to a bullshit life that you think you can live. If you think that your circumstances are always going to be what they are, and that, oh, I'm a felon, I have no education, I'm too old, I'm too young, we create these narratives and we live to them as they're true, right? Graffiti ain't a career, dancing ain't a career, fucking all this shit, and we go, okay, we accept it as truth, right? And then we feel the emotions around that. Inadequate, I'm not good enough, I'm not this, I'm not that, and we start to get into this place where we're settling for less. It's all fucking bullshit, right? So if you're trapped in that narrative right now, and if that's the way that you have, if that's the dialogue that you have with yourself, there is a way out, right? I used to believe that the anxiety and the negative emotions and the negative self-talk and all this shit that I experienced internally was just how it was going to be. Which, what a fucking sad place to live in, right? To really think that that's your factual life, that that's how it's always going to be. It's not. It's not. So we do this shit to unravel the narratives, right? To start to get to our core truth, right? Our core belief systems. That spirit that lived within us when we were a child, when we believed that we could be a fucking astronaut or play in the NBA.
This?
Yeah, hell yeah.
Touch on this. It's say that I'm gonna do something, right?
Yep.
Whether it's a conversation, I go, oh well, I know I'm gonna say this, and they're gonna say that, and then this is gonna happen. I believe that, right? So I noticed like in recovery, right? I just like, I didn't project. Like, I think I know, like, I'm going to do this and they're going to do that. They never do that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I was way off.
Of course. So I say the only thing I know for sure is that I don't know shit.
Yep.
And as long as I know that for sure, then I'll be all right. Because when I think I know, that's when I'm fucked up. Because what I thought I knew a long time ago was the furthest thing from the truth.
Yep.
And so now I live in a state of humility. I go into every conversation with the hopes and understanding that I could learn something, regardless of what my preconceived notion is of this individual. Because that's just my ego getting in the way.
Remaining teachable.
Remaining teachable.
Yep.
I have to remain in a place that I am teachable. Because my process is dependent on my ability to learn. I have to be in a place where I can fucking learn. If I already know everything, then I'm fucking what?
Yep.
And we get to that place, especially in recovery. And sometimes people get to that place before they get into recovery. They think they already know the destination and the end, that their life sucks, that this is how it's going to be, this is how it's always going to be and all that. But what I'm selling to you on this podcast is that narrative is fucking bullshit. And that's the trap that the disease sets for you. And our responsibility as motherfuckers that have made it at least somewhat out, and I'm not saying we're anywhere special. I'm saying that we're no longer controlled by that narrative, that we live life under different circumstances with different expectations of what our lives can become. I'm saying that bullshit that you're living by, it's not definitive. It's what your current circumstances are, but it will not define what it's going to be in the future. And that there are actions that you can take to change the narrative. The inner observer, right? The voice in which you talk to yourself can be changed. The dialogue from which it speaks to you. Most motherfuckers don't know that. They think their voice is always going to tell them no when they have a great idea. Or they think their voice is always going to tell them they can't do that. My voice used to tell me that all the fucking time. You can't, you won't be able to. But through the action that I've taken repetitiously, because repetition is the mother of all fucking skill, right? And it's through the repetitive nature that we change the cycle of thought. That's the only way. And it's through the action that we take against our will, Charlie. Against our will, because you are never going to give you permission to do the things that you are required to do in order to change. You're always going to want to take the easiest, softer way. I know that because I'll always want to take the easiest, softest way.
Yep.
So I have to have an understanding. Why do I have this understanding? Because I'm a fucking student to this shit. And here's what I'm selling, right? That what your understanding of what the reward component of this is, you can't even begin to fathom or scratch the fucking surface to what it is. I'm talking about unraveling all these fucked up narratives and getting in touch with the spirit, your true core spirit, which will then lead you to path and purpose. And you will then be led in life through this and not this. And that's called just being. It's called being in a flow state where you're not questioning. You're just living. You're allowing life to happen.
You're getting out of the way.
Getting the fuck out of the way.
Getting out of your way. Can I share something?
Absolutely.
So I never, ever paid attention in school, right? In fifth grade, I was in the back of the classroom with some girl's binder doing her name. Right?
You telling my story?
So all this time goes by, right? Now I'm going to CDL school, right? And I'm thinking, this is funny. You know, my mother always told me I was spastic. You can't drive stick, all this shit, right? So I'm going into the school. I have like no option, so it's desperation. It was offered to me. I'm like, I need to take this. I could drive cross country and make $18 an hour. So, but the amazing thing that happened is that I seen I was able to learn. Not only that, they make you say like 120 bolts on the truck. I'm the only person that got every one. And then I was like, you know, I was clean. And I was like, holy shit. Then I went to school to become a drug counselor. I was getting 90s on everything. Do you know now, right, from going through that little bit, I believe I could be a doctor if I wanted to now.
Yeah, of
If I
course.
really wanted to be a doctor, I could do it. That's crazy because I would never, I believe that I could be a doctor.
Well, it's not crazy to me because once you understand that you will only ever be the only obstacle in the way of you attaining what you want, once you understand that, right? Because a lot of us have this this misconception that there's these barriers that are set from these from mysterious things that are getting in the way of us to be able to be like this person or like that. And the only barrier that's ever going to be in the way is me.
Yep.
So if I'm not where I want to be, it's because I'm in the motherfucking way,
Yep.
right? But and you have to understand that on a deep level. Because once you understand that, then you have to understand what is the action required to get me out of the fucking way. What is the action that's required, right? My antidote to everything in life is transparency and number one, connection, right? Because we ain't shit without connection. Whether you believe in God, whether you believe in whatever the fuck you believe in, it all works through energy and people, right?
Mm-hmm.
I believe in God. My God works through people. So that means if I'm alone, God ain't working in my life.
Yeah.
He ain't working in my life because my source of strength comes from human to human connection. Without it, I'm lost in the sauce trying to sort through my own shit.
You're alone.
Alone. And me alone comes up with alternate plans of actions. Remember we talked about that early on? So I require people first and foremost. Why do I have people? Because they give me the opportunity to tell my truth. Because if I'm the only person that knows the truth about me, I'm fucked. I'll tell you that right now. Charlie, if I'm the only person that knows the truth about me, I'm not in a good place.
Yeah.
I'll tell you, I'm on the road to something not good. Because that means that I'm trying to figure out the solution to me. Which if I could figure out the solution to me, I would have never had to go to a meeting 18 years ago. I would have never had to go to all those halfway houses. I would have never had to go see doctors when I was little or see therapists or I would have just figured out the solution and been done with it. So I connect so I have the opportunity to tell the truth. And once I have the opportunity to tell the truth, I'm responsible to the dialogue, right? Relentless communication. Because my thoughts just don't come in and leave me alone. They don't just come in, I talk about it, and then they leave me alone.
They
No,
attack.
that what we resist persists. But the more I'm in a state of like just this is where I'm at, and I'm gonna keep telling you where I'm at till I'm no longer there. That's my solution. It's when I start to come up with this dialogue in my head, like, oh, I talked to Jay last night about this. He doesn't want to hear me today.
It's a lie.
It's a lie.
Bullshit.
Yeah, it's a lie.
And I'll start to, I shared about this with somebody. Well, they don't want to hear me talk about it again. That's the trap. So I understand, right? The type of shit that I have, I need to be in a state of connection. I need to be in a state of transparency with my truth. And I need to be in a state of relentlessly communicating because my thoughts relentlessly communicate with me left untreated. That is the most important thing in my process. Because it doesn't matter what the fuck you do. If those three things aren't in application, I don't care if you're going to 1 million NA meetings or 1 million AA meetings or fucking you're working in treatment or you're a drug counselor or you're anything. If you're not in a state of transparency, if you're not in a state in constant communication, if you don't have some motherfuckers around you that are willing to tell you the truth in spite of you and are willing to hear the truth without being judgmental, then none of this shit works.
This is where my relapse happened. I started having thoughts, right, when I had that time of getting high, and I worked in treatment, and I was embarrassed to say that I wanted to get high, or I thought about it, that I was embarrassed, and I kept it a secret. And then you know what I said? Fuck these people. And I wound up alone, and I got high.
Of course. And so I own a treatment center. And I run groups, and I shoplifted from the depot. I call it kind of shoplifting because I was scanning in the self-checkout, and the thing didn't scan.
Yeah,
and I was like, fuck it. And then it didn't scan again, and I was like, all right. And then all of a sudden it was like, all of a sudden that shit came alive. I was like, I'm stealing everything now. Once I stole one thing, one too many thousands never enough. I was like, this whole fucking carriage is free, motherfuckers. I probably paid for 2 things and walked out. That shit was in my head. My head. You can't tell. You can't. Dude, I ran group the next day. Told the whole motherfucking group how that. Because and part of that story is how crazy is the universe, right? I get home, I'm all in my head. It's during the holidays. A lot of that shit with those blow-up dolls. My son wanted those blow-up dolls on the fucking for the Christmas, like a big-ass thing.
The front lawn ones,
So this is the second part of that story, right? So I shoplift. I get home. I'm in my head. I'm like, I can't believe I just stole, blah, 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 blah. And then I realized, where the fuck's my cell phone? I don't have my cell phone. Where the fuck's my cell phone? I
Oh,
left my cell
shit.
phone on the self-checkout. I had to go back to the depot. Now I'm paranoid. I'm like,
Yeah.
they're
They're gonna arrest me.
They're going to arrest me, all this shit. I get my phone. I go back. I'm like, what a piece of shit I am, all this stuff. So we have a snowstorm that night. I set up all the blow-up dolls. We have a snowstorm. I go to bed. I wake up the next morning. They're all on my front lawn murdered, just like deflated. And I'm like, the fuck happened? My boy Andy hits me up. He came by and he snowblowed my driveway for me and
Yeah.
plowed it, and they ran over all the fucking wires, the cords that blow them up. So not only I shoplifted, left my cell phone there, blew them all up, woke up the next morning, they were all murdered on my front lawn. I'm like, if that ain't God or the universe telling me, get your shit together,
That's the
kid.
story of my life. Every time I do something wrong, I get called for it.
Yeah.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
And so my head tells me, you can't tell anybody about this. Number one, you're this, you're that, all the bullshit perception stuff. It's like, nah, man, people need to hear this, because if I'm not afraid to tell my truth, being in the position that I am, that gives someone else the freedom to tell theirs. And that's the most important thing that we can do. That is unconditional love. The power in the program, the fellowship and connections is the ability to give and receive unconditional love. That's allowing me to present where I'm truly at without you looking at me like I'm fucking crazy. And then in return, I give you the same opportunity, because that's where freedom lies within, right?
Chris, let me ask you a question, right? I feel like I was very fortunate. I was mandated through trouble, right? Through my troubles, I was mandated and introduced and forced into a new way of life, right? Mm-hmm. Eventually, until I wanted it, because I seen it worked and how amazing my life got, right? So I wouldn't, for people that know me, I would not be doing this if the reward wasn't really fucking great, right?
No.
I have friends that don't know anything about how to change their lives, right? They're 40 years old, 41. All they know is drinking beer, smoking weed. They think that being clean or sober is just smoking weed. I have friends that call me. They're like, yeah, man, I'm sober now. I'm like, oh, yeah, that's dope. Blah, blah. They're like, yeah, man, I just smoke weed and drink beers. I might do a line of coke here and there, but it's kind of like that. And like sometimes people ask me, like, I know that they don't know where to begin.
Yeah.
So if you have a friend that is miserable, almost suicidal, cries at night, hates their life, how could they get acclimated to changing their lives? What do you think? Like, what do you think the steps are?
It's right out the gate. It's the, like I just said before, it's the connection component, right? So those friends that out the gate, they know obviously that you're doing what you're doing, so there's an opportunity to connect. After that happens, it's allowing yourself to be transparent. If you want any type of freedom, it starts with your truth, because there can be no solution to a problem that isn't acknowledged. It starts with accountability. But
What
a lot
if they
of us
don't know the truth? Like, what if they're really like that's all they know? They're like,
Lead the horse to water.
Well, I mean, it begins with dialogue. A lot of the time, people don't even understand what's truly going on with them because of how the shit operates within us, right? The root cause and what we're perceiving things to be are sometimes completely opposite, right? Because we'll just experience emotions, and then we'll start pinpointing reasons for us experiencing the emotions. And a lot of people with untreated, any type of, especially untreated disease of addiction, will start doing the blame game. It's my job sucks, my girl sucks, my kids suck, my life sucks. It's the circumstances, but in order to get to the root cause, you have to begin the dialogue around whatever it is. And sometimes it's just as general as like, I don't even know what's wrong with me. I just know that there is something wrong with me. Then a beginning of a process of something can take place. But I have a ton of people that they want to dip their toe in the water. They don't want to. I did that shit, right? But here's my thing, right? People, because you can be sober and whatever you want to classify it, but I'm talking about a process of recovery, right? A process of recovery is going inward, turning inward and going deep, right? To discover what your capabilities are and what your path and purpose are supposed to be in this lifetime. To be able to go internally, to do this work, because we do this work so we can unlock the mind and open up the possibilities to anything, right? And change the way that we view and perceive the world. because that's once you start to tap into the capabilities and experience exactly, because life's here for us to live the shit out of it.
Yeah.
But people think that it's just here for us to settle and live mediocre and we put off. We do this thing called stipulations on our happiness. I'll be happy when. We keep moving it
till I retire, till you're 70.
Nah, your happiness is supposed to start now. How do we get to that place? It's inward. Everything you'll ever need is already inside of you. We have to learn to tap into that. It's like you're starting to tap into it now. Jay, I mean, we're all we're just scratching the fucking surface. And what keeps me, I mean, I could cash in the chips right now and be like, this, I'm blown away by what my life has become over the course of 15 years. And I could be happy with everything that I already have in existence right now, with the friends, everything that I have right now. But I know that there's so much more out there that I'm still scratching the surface. I know that there's so much more for me to experience, and there's so much more for me to learn. And once you cross over into that, my pitch to anybody that has they're halfway in, it's just like, are you fully and completely happy? If the answer is no, then here's the resolution to that. I can give you a fucking blueprint to get to the other side of that.
Mm-hmm.
So recently, sorry, Jay.
Go ahead.
So recently, the last 3 weeks, I've had a buddy that's been hitting me up. This kid I used to drink heavily with. He wasn't into the hard drugs like I was, but he's been struggling. Every Sunday he calls me crying. You know, he's going out getting blackout drunk, you know, passing out downtown Nashville, calling me, and he's like, well, like, what do I do? He's like, I see, you know, where you came from, and I used to drink with you, and I know everything you've been through. He's like, how'd you do it? And it's like, just try. I talked to him, and you know, I talked to him about 12 steps. I talked to him about what recovery looks like. I talked to him, you know, about what it's like working in treatment and things he can do. And that's why I said lead the horse to water, but you can't make him drink. You know, you just hope he buys into it. Because I asked him, I'm like, are you happy? He's like, I'm miserable, I'm depressed. And that's the most heartbreaking thing, is seeing someone you love. And because we had a great friendship, you know, put drinking and whatever aside, but you know, you want everyone to believe into it. We were talking about like people's future, right? And if there was a magic 8-ball that we could be like, day one, then detox, like, I don't know if I can do it. I wish there was an 8-ball I could shake and be like, do this for 6 months, and this is what you get. Yeah. Do this for 2 years, and this is what your life is like. But you have to put the work in.
In my experience, the closest thing you can get to that 8-ball or predicting the future is when you get a connection with another addict or alcoholic and you actually trust and have faith in them.
Yeah.
You believe that they can lead the way.
Yeah.
And I have plenty of friends, too, that I just would love to see get my own uncle last year killed himself.
Sorry.
I'm not saying it. I'm saying it because he kept trying to run. He kept trying to run, and he actually had a small taste maybe 10 years ago or so where I think he was stipulated to meetings, and then it wasn't for him. And those same people that you're talking about and the same people that I'm talking about that are friends that they just never been to a meeting, they've never given it a shot, or if it does get brought up, I've dealt with this a lot over the years where what's working for you, they think won't work for them, and they think it's followed with a long list of negative things. Oh, that place is brainwashing you. That's this, that's that. And what I do know, what's had the most effect is when I'm living my life positive and I'm clean and I'm in recovery and I have the right people around me and I'm flourishing and doing what I love and I'm passionate about painting and doing that and was traveling and all these things, right? They're like, I don't know what the fuck he's doing, but I like the vibe that he gives off.
Yeah.
Right? Attraction rather than promotion. Because I've wasted a lot of effort over the years trying to get people clean, trying to speak the program into them. And what's funny is I picture when I didn't know what it was, if someone was talking to me like that, you look fucking crazy.
Yeah.
You might have some skin complexion. You might be driving a nice car. Shit, you might even be taking the bus. Whatever your fucking scenario is, if you're trying to spit some fucking NA or AA shit to someone, they ain't fucking having it. You look crazy to them.
Yeah.
Anytime I was ever forced to go to a detox or forced to get clean, it never worked. I literally had to hit my own rock bottom. Some people's jail, some people's whatever. Mine was wanting to die.
Yeah. See, a lot of people that I know's experience, they have a shit ton of treatment and detox. And my story's not that. My story's mainly fucking using right? For all these years, from fucking 12, 13 to 23. So that's 10 solid years right there. And I started using hard drugs at 15. So it's not like I fucking smoked weed and drank in the woods for like a decade. Nah. Nah. It was hard shit. Okay? And my story is...
I thought you just did Tylenol PMs.
Yeah.
Advils.
So cigarettes?
Yes, he smoked 6
couple
cigarettes.
Newport Lights. Fucking by the time I first went to detox, I just wanted to stop living like that, man. Right? I literally just wanted to stop living like that. And I didn't stay clean from there. Right? But I learned some shit because I was fucking done. Or at least I thought I was. Well, I could have passed the lie detector test. I was done. What I was doing every day to get high, trying to maintain a job and fucking boasting and I'm hanging around people I want to fucking literally cause bodily harm to. I don't even like.
Yeah.
But because you got the shit or you got the car or the hustle or whatever the fuck it was, looking back at it, it disgusts me, okay? I was living at like animalistic levels.
Self-seeking motives.
That when I finally got a fucking taste of the detox, and then I was like, okay. You know, and this is going to kind of circle back to what we were saying as far as step where it took you till now to understand what power is. See, the dialogue up to that point, I might have wanted to stop using and was sick of living like that. But when I realized that the shit that was really going on at meetings and with the sayings and the literature and all this stuff, I'm just here to not use anymore. I don't know about looking at myself like that.
Yeah.
I don't know about looking inward.
Yeah, I just wanted to stop using. I didn't.
So when people started talking about sponsors and men's meetings and fucking reading literature and all, it was like, I wasn't good in school. Now that narrative comes up. Well, the reason why I wasn't good in school, okay, is because I wasn't fucking interested in what was being talked about at school. I didn't try. I was the class clown in every fucking grade until I got out of high school.
Yep.
Okay, I would sacrifice my own freedom, meaning like I don't care if I get suspended. If I can make all these new kids laugh, I'm going to do whatever the fuck I can, right? And I've talked about that on other episodes, but this is more in detail of it. I've literally would just push the envelope and push the envelope and push the envelope to the point where my fucking desk would be in the hallway.
Yes.
And I'm still doing stupid shit.
Yep.
Right? Then my mother's just going to beat my ass when I get home. And I'd still do it to the next day because you know what? That's better than the alternative. If back then I got people to actually like and laugh and I could get them engaged, probably less fighting I'd have to do. Right? And I lived like that. No wonder why I ended up going to fucking drugs so young. You scared? I was fucking scared. Scared to death. So by the time all those years of using and fucking just active addiction and telling myself all these lies, you can't do it. You're too skinny. You're too skinny. She don't like you. You can't get that job. I just told myself, and guess what? It turned into fucking my reality. I couldn't do it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? And then anyway, so when I finally got to meetings, that same head, this is why I always ask clients or new addicts that are new to recovery, I'll always say, who in this room has ever experienced a year or more clean? And most of the time, there's not many hands that go up. Okay? And I say this, and like Chris joked earlier, saying at the end of commitments, I'd go, you know, and I hope someone got someone out of this. I don't do this shit for nothing. Looking back at it, it's just anyone that knows me, I can be rough around the edges.
No.
But like the way that I am now, I come up with these things on the fly, and yes, I say it passionate, it can come up. But I think most people, if you're fucking really listening, know that I'm coming from a place of caring, and it's the only way I know.
Yeah.
Right? It's literally the only way I know. And
that's the internal motivation, though. It's also part of, especially to anybody that's watching this, it's like, all right, why do we do this? Why are we trying to get clean, right? What's the... It's the, like I talked about before, it's the changing of the dialogue to which we talk to ourselves. If you can understand how profound that is, to no longer have to battle you on a daily basis to better your life, 100%. and to be not only, like when I tell you that the dialogue that the fear that controlled my life for so long, and the same with you, Jay, like especially with living life, like the dialogue that you talk to yourself with is completely different. Now you're like, oh, I can. Why can't I? Not only, I'm going to. You know what I mean? Like for me, like that, it's almost, and I joke sometimes, and some people think I'm crazy because the arrogance to which I talk to myself with now. Now, how that sounds fucking crazy. Talking about an arrogance, the dialogue that I have in my head, like I see somebody open up a business, I'm like, I can do that shit, and then I fucking do it. Like I'm talking about from before, I'd be like, I'll never, I can't, no, ooh. Like my dialogue was so fucking just this like sad little fucking
Same thing, and that's why we're close. And everyone on here, even though you just met them, I was like, when Charlie comes up, you're gonna love him.
But the flip side is the voice can go back to the way that so this is where people get it twisted. They think that once the voice changes and now I got this. Oh, look what I did. I got this. Look what I did. It's
Ego.
all that's where we hit the fucking that's the trap, right? That comes a trap because that same voice that is going to be inspired and want to do all this stuff is the same voice that can trip me up down the line if I don't continuously take the action that got me to this place that I speak to myself in a healthy manner, right? It's the same way, and we learn this, right? Because you have to be, when you understand the power of our mind, right? The same voice that says Charlie fuck it, get high, then you get high, switches up on you after you get high and then starts saying what? You piece of shit, I can't believe you got high.
Yeah.
You piece of shit, I can't believe you got high. What a fucking loser. So how quick the dialogue can change, right? So we have to be in a place of awareness. We have to be in a place of like, yes, the dialogue changes, but there has to be the consistency and never forgetting ultimately what got us to this place. That's why we're in a state of transparency. And when we understand that we're never obligated to be anything other than what we actually are, no matter how much time you have, understand that it's okay to not be okay, that it's okay to start thinking crazy. It's okay to fucking lose yourself. It's okay to be in a process where you have to recommit, where you have to make amends, where you fall short. It's okay. That is life. That we suffer from human frailty well before we suffer from the disease of addiction. There is no such thing as a perfect person. There's no such thing. So when we understand that, we allow ourselves to live in a state of humility. And as long as I'm in a state of humility and I'm transparent, I can say to the people around me that I love and that I trust where I'm truly at. And in return, I get the help that's needed. Sometimes it's not through the profound wisdom that they give back to me. It's just a matter of being heard. Yeah. I don't even need advice most of the time when I say the shit out loud that's in my head.
I know.
Just see the
That's how it works.
You hear it. You're like, whoa.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm halfway through my fucking rant, and I'm like, I'm actually.
You got the answers. You already got
I'm gonna go to church tomorrow.
It makes
and
the problem real. It makes it
whatever.
real.
Yeah,
The
no,
second
for
you talk
sure.
about it.
So that's the reason why I say, who's had a year or more? The reason why I do that is because I'm basically talking to the younger version of me when I do that. Because when I couldn't raise my hand, or if someone that had time, right, and knowledge was talking to me, and I could say, no, I've never experienced that. They say, okay, it's because you mainly, you know what you can talk for the next half hour about? Fucking your life up. That's what you have experience with.
Yep.
Not staying clean. And the reason why that's done is because when you get people to engage and either raise their hand for the year or more, right? Or not raise their hand, they're hearing themselves say it out loud. No, I've never had that happen. Okay, so basically you can't tell me nothing about recovery. Let me tell you about recovery. Let me tell you what people taught me, right? Because that's how that shit works. It's not about trying to, then tell them a bunch of shit that the almighty you knows. It's about what we've learned. Being a student, seeking the fucking knowledge out, passing it on to someone else. That's what we're doing.
The brain is crazy with the negative self-talk. One of my favorite things to do with guys in the house or whatever, in group is, you two best friends, you guys, right? I'll be like, all right, write down stuff that you like about Charlie, all right? Then I'll be like, Charlie, what do you not like about yourself? A 10-minute rant goes off. I don't like this. I don't like this. I don't like this. I'll be like, okay, J-Mac, what do you like? And it'll be the qualities about that person that he doesn't like about himself. That'll be the stuff that he likes. We see ourselves differently, just like people saw the change in me before I did, right? And the dialogue does switch up. The second I think I don't need a meeting, my sponsor told me that from day one. He's like, the second you think you don't need a meeting, go to a fucking meeting.
Yeah.
Go to a meeting. Just like setting expectations. When I have a year clean, I'm going to be so happy. What I always share about it. At 14 months clean, I went to a meeting. I'm like, I'm fucking miserable.
Yeah.
I'm miserable right now. I'm doing everything that's suggested, and for some reason, I just feel this, and I felt better after sharing it. And guys come up to me and be like, dude, I've been thinking the same thing, but I didn't want to say it because there's this stigma too. You have a certain amount of time clean, everything's going to get better.
Yeah.
That's not the case. It's life. In no literature, NAA, whatever, it doesn't promise me if I don't use drugs and alcohol that my life is going to be fucking amazing. It doesn't. But it promised me serenity. It promises me, a connection with a higher power. And it like, to me, it helped me find purpose and happiness.
Well, action needs to take place. We remove the drugs and alcohol or whatever the fuck from our system, and now once that happens, there's a responsibility towards of action that we must take, and all in the development of a life worth living, right? And that's the secondary component to this shit. Like, why do we get clean, stay clean, and put in the work? It's to develop a life worth living. If you don't develop a life worth living, it's going to be hard to stay clean. It will be hard to stay clean.
So you make a decision. You can make a decision and say, I'm going to do this. I'm going to hop on a plane. You got to book a plane ticket. You got to pack a suitcase.
Yeah.
You got to get to the airport. Action. You
Action.
got to take action. So a decision without action, nothing's going to change.
And understand that you have to take action with or without your permission. That's where we get it fucking twisted. We think that we wait for us to give ourselves permission. That's like me waiting. I'm waiting for myself to give myself permission to start working out again.
Oh, don't even go there.
And the answer is no still. I'm not but
I hear you. I'm in that club.
Exactly. But here's the thing. I know that if I want to get back into shape, the action is going to have to happen without my permission.
It's taking that first leap, though.
Exactly. And what will change the way that I talk to myself is the repetition of that action without my permission will then eventually I'll give myself permission because I like the reward. That's why we do it. The reward component happens whether we believe in it or not.
It has to be better than what I had before. So the reward for me now, people know me. They for the people that know me, right today, I couldn't tell you how amazing my life is this early in the process. I can't imagine what is in store for me.
Yeah.
I can't imagine. This is 6 months, bro.
Yeah.
I had 2 DUIs, right? My case has just automatically got dropped. Like, the things that are happening in my life are inexplainable. You know what I'm saying? I just go to a meeting every day. I call my sponsor every day. I tell him everything I said, whatever it is. And he helps me get out of my own way.
No, absolutely. And the more you connect, the more people around you, the more it's like the bigger the army and the squad we got around us, the less access the disease has to take us out, right?
Yeah.
I have a full squad at all times, man, of people that are part of this process, because sometimes I need to be inspired. Sometimes I don't have the ability to take action. Sometimes I need motherfuckers like Jay, who's such a pain in the ass, man. When it comes to wanting me to take action, I need people like Chris. I'm surrounded by people that are gonna force me to walk when I want to sit, that are gonna make me wake up when I want to sleep,
Hold you accountable.
Of course, man. And not just accountable in the noticeable areas, right? Because when you surround yourself with people that can see the details of your life, they're able to hold you accountable in very important areas, man, because they see you coming from a mile away. Like, there's people that can hold you accountable when you're just fucking acting out crazy blatantly. But I surround myself with people that can see that are holding me accountable when the rest of the world is blind to, because they understand. They're also students to this shit. They also understand on the level that I understand.
Yesterday, I made a comment on my Instagram. I said, fuck this guy. Do you know a newcomer? Someone would have come. They asked me if I was all right.
Of course.
And I was like, damn. I'm like, people are in fear for me. And I called my sponsor and I told him. And he goes, yeah, man, you're tripping on the past.
I spoke with you too.
Yeah, I called. Yeah, I mean, I'm calling everybody because I'd say this is what I do, and then people put things back in perspective for me. I know what to do. Hit a meeting, blah, blah, and
But you need
back on track.
that. Like when we ended up talking, I was painting, and I seen the difference where I'm like, yo, that's a little taste of the old Charlie.
Uh-oh.
But it's uh-oh for him because I want to see him do good.
Yeah.
I want to see all my people and all my friends, and this dude means a lot to me. And I said, yo, I know Keo gave you the more like and I was just like, yo, fuck that shit. You know what I'm saying? Fuck that. But I broke it down. I was like, I'm understanding why you're bothered, but you're embarking on a super fucking negative vibe, bro, and that's like not who you are today.
Yeah.
And I was like, yo, let that shit go, bro. That's like fucking, you're like entertaining the circus, homie.
And you know what's amazing? He said that, and I let it go.
Yeah.
I couldn't let it go on my own. He was like, yo, let that shit go. It was 20 years ago.
But I also had to put in perspective. I was like, yo, what you're fucking with and I'm fucking with today and what's on, and that is where some arrogance. Well, I was like, yo, you're literally giving shine to the little league motherfuckers, bro, where you're in the big league now. And it had to be broken down like that. That's just real facts. You've strived to live a certain way. You're accomplishing this stuff where you're at. You're in a relationship. You're fucking dealing with Keo. You're writing stuff. You're doing all this stuff that you've wanted to do. You just shared it 6 months and you're amazed. The second you start to put out content like that, you're entertaining the motherfucking circus, dude.
Yeah.
We already grew up in the circus.
It's also a negative influence on other people. Like,
But that's part of the circus.
Yeah.
But that's it. There's already enough fucking negative, dramatic bullshit in the graffiti culture. And what doesn't get tapped into, there's also a lot of positive content and fucking influential people to be around.
But that's what I tried to show. It was wrong for me. I went on Instagram and I told people like, yo, like basically if you see this kid, like basically I put hands on him, whatever. and like,
no, but you got the power to be able to have a movement start where it's going to cause a bunch of drama and graph. And I was like, yo, we already have enough.
Happens,
but that's what comes.
yeah, I got mad.
But this is graph. This ain't oil painting classes. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? So this is what we know what this lifestyle is. However, I like being a voice that can help tap into the psyche of writers and shit that are out there because let's be honest, if we could somehow do a fucking poll of that whole culture, most writers are fucked up individuals, man, even in recovery. But most, Kez just died. My boy Toom died. The whole list goes on of dudes. And a lot of the writers, man, that meant something, they never fucking experienced being clean. So
I know.
I sometimes do it for them. Always because I want to better my life. But sometimes I got to tap in. That's why I paint Toom's name every year, dude. I do that shit. It means something to me. I want to be
every
better.
time I write, I
want to be better. You know? So that's why I hit him up and was like, yo, straight up, bro. That's like on some negative shit. And it sparked a different entity and beast out of you. That's why I was like, yo, I just fucking can't wait for you to come up here and talk about the real deal shit, how you living today, man. If I sit here and just tap into the beef and shit I had in the past, it does fucking jack shit for me. It does jack shit for me today.
Yeah.
You know?
it would lead me right back to destroying my life.
Yes.
That's what I'm saying. You just need, and I care about you, so that's why it was
Yeah, I
important
love
for me
you,
to
man.
call to
Thank
be
you.
like, yo, fuck that shit. You know, you're
Progress,
going to
not
come up, you're going to meet
perfection.
Chris, you're going to meet my other boy, Chris. You know, you're going to meet some of my other friends and, maybe eventually be
Yeah.
up here.
Well, I appreciate you coming on, man. We're coming to the end of the podcast. I want you to shout out. I know you got your clothing thing, dope gear. You got some IG, some.
Yeah. So my name on Instagram is Charlie _the_hustler. And my shirts are sold. It's called The Plug Online Store.com. So you can get my shirts there. I drop a new shirt like every week.
Dope
I make
shit
it
too.
Yeah, it is good.
Thank you.
Yep.
I've been doing it for like 10 years. I had some shirts that were really
fly.
blew up.
We'll
but,
have to link you up with our sponsors, Rich Print Shop.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Your exclusive
I'm always
gear.
looking. I'm always
they made
looking.
this dope shirt right here, the
Yep.
the J-Max special.
Be
grateful.
grateful.
Be grateful
Be
in
grateful,
the building.
baby.
Maybe we can get that Charlie the Hustler, Rich Print Shop collabo. I mean, essentially, all you gotta do is they just want to print the shirt.
If you
Put
want
it-
it to happen, just
Yeah,
say you want it to
yeah.
happen, and we're going to make it happen.
That's right.
Hell yeah. Just so you guys know, while we were filming this podcast, Chris sent me a text. It was heartfelt. He said, I hope you read this while we were recording. You look like a bitch. That's what Chris sent me in the midst of this podcast. And he also told me last week that this girl that he's talking to asked if I was gay because I sit like this during the podcast, which, to clarify, I'm not that I know of.
I started off strong. I was like, no, I don't. Yeah, I don't know. He might be.
I don't know. That's the second. That's the
out.
second time.
Because he's
somebody's
Italian.
asked me. It is an Italian thing.
I really don't
But,
care which way you sit. I still love you.
Thank you. It is what it is.
You know what I mean?
But I want to thank my man Charlie the Hustler coming on. This has been a dope podcast. Obviously, thank our co-hosts in the building, Chris Ledoux, for nothing.
Yep.
My man J Mac. Shout out Street Smart. Shout out Rich Print Shop. Shout out.
Oh, hold on. The label.
The
LTD
label.
on Instagram.
This is episode what?
13.
Episode 13. And we out. Peace.
Peace.